you know, a series of events between the whole miniature killer thing and some other events. She'd had so many recent close calls. The job was just too much for her. It was too much with her. And I think she knew that if she asked Grissom to go with her, even if he said yes, that would be the end of him, you know. Grissom, the lab for Grissom is his whole world. It's the place where he's felt safe. It's where he's been for 20 years. It's his everything. So I think she knew that she never even asked, you know, she would never even ask him to go. I think she thought it would kill him to go, and it was going to kill her to stay. I thought she had a really dignified goodbye and a really loving goodbye. There was a lot of grace to it, and so I was thrilled by that. You know, it made me a little uncomfortable in a way, you know, because there were several episodes that became very Sarah heavy, and I think that all of us on the show, we are an ensemble, and we're really used to sharing. You know, you might get in one episode, and then you're late for a while, and then you're back, and so, you know, Jorja as myself, I was slightly embarrassed by the whole thing, by the attention, but I was really happy for the character. That, you know, I thought that it was a really kind thing for them to do. I'm really glad that she's just somewhere in the ethers right now. You know, I have ideas about where she is, and I'm sure Carol Mendelsohn does too. But that she wasn't, you know, that she's alive and well. You know, I think that there's several different options when you're going to give a character a send-off, and I think particularly for the character of Sarah, she'd been through so much sort of heaviness in her life and violence and darkness, and I kind of always have seen her as someone who's been able to surmount a lot of difficulties, you know, to have sort of a reasonably sane, happy life. For her to be a victim of violence in the end would have been absolutely devastating and horrific to me. That she already did that. She already went through that and survived it and came out the other side. So I'm really happy that the writers decided not to kill her off. I knew going into season 8 that I was going to do the first 7 episodes of season 8, so I absolutely knew that. And I think I'd known for about a year or a year and a half that that I was thinking about going, you know, sort of just in my own sort of space. That again, I've been so lucky. I've been 11 and a half years consistently on primetime TV, so after 11 and a half years, I think I was just kind of ready to take a little break, just a little break, and a little break from the violence, and because 8 beautiful years of violence is a lot, and a lot of the stories that we tell are based on real stories. You know, it's not just sort of pure imagination a lot of the time, so it adds sort of a heavier sense to the show. I think the hardest part was really feeling like it was definitely the longest goodbye of my entire life. I mean, we all knew it. You know, all the actors knew it, and the crew knew it, and the writers knew it. And so there was a good 2 or 3 month period where I felt like I was saying goodbye to everybody almost every day. And that was heartbreaking. It was really hard. I almost wished during that time that it had been a shock to all of us, you know, and that I didn't know that it was happening. It seems, you know, I've never been one for long goodbyes anyway. I'm like the kind that likes to drop people off at the airport and not go in. And so it was this very emotional sort of wait. And I think I was really lucky too, because a lot of the feelings that I was going through were feelings that would work with the storyline and the character. They were feelings that the character was going through. Like you know, it's the hardest thing that I've ever done was to leave the show, and it was a lot harder to leave than to stay in many respects. And so, luckily for me, the character was sort of making those same decisions at that time. You know, that I'm sure the hardest thing that she ever did was to leave the Las Vegas crime lab and leave Greg Sanders and Nick Stokes and Gil Grissom and this family that she had created, you know, Warwick Brown and everyone there. We were having a conversation about the storyline, and he asked me if I were going to say goodbye, like what would I say? If I were writing a letter, if Sarah was writing a letter to Grissom, what would it say? And so he, you know, it was a homework assignment that he kind of gave me, which I didn't get that often. I went off to hair and makeup, and in hair and makeup I wrote it, and then I gave it to him on a scrap piece of paper, and then when I got the script, you know, a few days later, I was completely blown away that it was the letter that I had written. I thought, you know, he'd just kind of look at it and be like, oh, okay, well, that's what she would say, and then he'd write something, write something real. So, so yeah, that was a complete surprise to me. In the letter that she leaves for Grissom, she says that it's definitely the closest thing that she's ever had to a home. You know, was those 7 years there in that place with those people, and you know, those bonds. I mean, for me, you know, again, that's where the character and the person are so intertwined in some respects. You know, I just spent my morning with Marg and Billy, and they're my family. You know, I feel that in 12 years, if I got a call out of the blue from Paul Guilfoyle, you know, to go to his house, I'd be there probably, you know, as fast as I could. So, and I think that there's no question in my mind that Sarah shares those feelings for the people that she worked with there.